What you are about to hear will change the way you think about Iceland forever. A place known for its breathtaking beauty became the setting for one of the most disturbing disappearances in modern history. On March 15, 2019, 28-year-old Sarah Mitchell stepped off a tour bus at the famous Reynisfjara Black Sand Beach. She had her camera, she had her phone, she had her entire life ahead of her. 47 seconds later, she was gone, no screams, no struggle, no witnesses, just gone. For 8 months her family searched, the Icelandic police searched, volunteers from around the world searched, and then someone found something that made absolutely no sense, something that shouldn't have been possible. This is the story of Sarah Mitchell, and I promise you, you have never heard anything like this before. But before we dive in, if you are interested in true mystery stories and unsolved cases, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We cover cases like this every single week. Now, let's talk about what really happened in Iceland. To understand what happened to Sarah Mitchell, we need to go back to the beginning. Back to when Iceland was just a dream on her bucket list. Sarah was an adventure photographer from Portland, Oregon. She had spent 3 years saving up for this trip. Iceland wasn't just a vacation for her, it was going to be the centerpiece of her photography portfolio. The northern lights, the glaciers, the volcanic landscapes. She had been planning this for months. Her itinerary was meticulous. Day 1, Reykjavik. Day 2, the Golden Circle. Day 3, the South Coast. That is where our story takes its dark turn. March 15th, 2019, started like any other day on a guided tour. Sarah had joined a group of 12 tourists, 8 from the United States, 2 from Germany, and 2 from Japan. Their guide was a 34-year-old Icelander named John Halldórsson, a man who had been leading tour for over 10 years. Someone who knew these lands like the back of his hand. The tour group left Reykjavik at 8 a.m. According to John's testimony, Sarah was in high spirits. She sat near the front of the bus, chatting with other tourists, occasionally snapping photos through the window as the Icelandic countryside rolled by. Their first stop was Seljalandsfoss waterfall at 9:30 a.m. Sarah took photos. She posted one to Instagram with the caption, "Living the dream. Iceland, you are even more beautiful than I imagined." That post received 247 likes. It would be her last. The group spent 30 minutes at Seljalandsfoss, then they moved on to Skagafoss waterfall. Another 30 minutes. Sarah was accounted for at both locations. Multiple tourists have photos with her in the background. At 11:45 a.m., they stopped for lunch at a small cafe in Vik. Sarah ordered a bowl of lamb soup and a coffee. She seemed perfectly normal. Happy, even. One of the German tourists, Klaus Weber, later told police that Sarah talked about her plans for the afternoon. She was most excited about their final stop of the day, Reynisfjara Black Sand Beach. And that is where everything went wrong. The bus arrived at Reynisfjara at 1:47 p.m. We know the exact time because John logged it in his tour record. It is procedure. Every stop logged and timestamped. Reynisfjara is one of Iceland's most famous and most dangerous beaches. The black volcanic sand stretches out toward the North Atlantic, and towering basalt columns called Reynisstrangar rise from the ocean like the fingers of ancient giants. But here is what most tourists don't understand. Reynisfjara kills people. The waves there are called sneaker waves. They come out of nowhere, often much larger than the waves before them. They have swept tourists off the beach and into the freezing Atlantic. Since 2007, at least 3 people have died there. John gave his standard safety briefing. Don't go near the water. Don't turn your back on the ocean. Stay within the designated area. Everyone nodded. Everyone understood. The group had 45 minutes to explore. Sarah walked toward the basalt columns on the eastern side of the beach. Several tourists saw her. She had her camera. She was alone, but that wasn't unusual. Photographers often separate from the group to get better shots. At 2:18 p.m., one of the American tourists, Jennifer Park, snapped a photo of the landscape. When she reviewed it later, she realized Sarah was in the frame, in the distance, near the basalt columns. That photo would become crucial evidence. At 2:32 p.m., John called everyone back to the bus. This is where things get strange. Everyone returned. Everyone? Except Sarah. At first, John wasn't worried. Tourists lose track of time. It happens. He did a quick head count. 11, there should be 12. He asked who was missing. Someone said the American girl with the camera. Sarah. John walked back toward the beach. He called her name, no response. He checked the basalt columns. She wasn't there. He checked near the water's edge. Nothing. He checked the parking lot. Her backpack was still on the bus. At 2:40 p.m., John called the police. At 2:43 p.m., he organized the tourists into a search line. They searched for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. An hour, Sarah Mitchell had vanished, and then the Icelandic Coast Guard arrived. Within 2 hours of Sarah's disappearance, Reynisfjara Black Sand Beach had become a crime scene. Well, not a crime scene exactly. There was no evidence of a crime, but it was treated with the same level of urgency. The Icelandic Coast Guard deployed 2 helicopters. The local police department sent every available officer. Volunteers from nearby towns started arriving. By 6:00 p.m., over 70 people were searching for Sarah Mitchell. The initial theory was simple. Sneaker wave. The ocean at Reynisfjara is ruthless. If Sarah had been standing too close to the water, if she had been focused on getting the perfect shot through her camera lens, if she hadn't seen the wave coming, it would have taken seconds. The wave hits. The undertow drags you in. The Atlantic Ocean is 35 degrees Fahrenheit. Hypothermia sets in within minutes. You don't survive. But here is the problem with that theory. Nobody saw it happen. Jennifer Park's photo, the last known image of Sarah, showed her nowhere near the water. She was at least 50 feet from the shore, standing near the basalt columns. And the ocean conditions that day, relatively calm. Still, the Coast Guard searched the waters. Divers went down. They found nothing. The search expanded inland. Maybe Sarah had wandered away from the beach. Maybe she had gotten disoriented. Maybe she had fallen and hit her head. Search and rescue teams combed the lava fields surrounding Reynisfjara. They used thermal imaging drones. They brought in search dogs. Nothing. On March 16th, Sarah's parents, Robert and Linda Mitchell, flew to Iceland. The footage of them arriving at Keflavik Airport is heartbreaking. Linda couldn't even walk. Robert had to support her. They held a press conference. Linda, tears streaming down her face, held up a photo of Sarah. "Please," she said. "If anyone has seen anything at all, please come forward. We just want our daughter back." The story went international. CNN covered it. BBC covered it. American photographer vanishes in Iceland became headline news around the world. Tips started flooding in. Someone claimed they saw Sarah at a gas station in Herfin, 120 miles east of Reynisfjara. Police investigated. It wasn't her. Someone else said they had seen her hitchhiking near Selfoss. Also investigated. Also not her. By the end of week 1, police had followed up on 147 tips. None led anywhere. The investigation shifted focus. They started looking at the people on the tour. John Halldorson, the tour guide, was questioned extensively. His timeline was airtight. Witnesses confirmed he had been with the bus the entire time. He had no motive. He didn't know Sarah before the tour. He was cleared. Each of the 11 other tourists was interviewed separately. Their stories all aligned. Nobody saw anything unusual. Nobody heard anything strange. Klaus Weber, the German tourist, underwent a polygraph test voluntarily. He passed. Jennifer Park, who took the last photo of Sarah, was questioned for 6 hours. Her story never changed. Everyone was cleared. By the end of March, the official search was scaled back. The Coast Guard stopped daily helicopter runs. The dive teams stopped searching the waters. The police presence decreased. It wasn't that they had given up. It is that they had searched everywhere. They had checked every cave, every crevice, every inch of coastline for miles in both directions. Sarah Mitchell had simply disappeared, but the family didn't give up. Robert and Linda Mitchell stayed in Iceland for 6 weeks. They printed flyers. They went door to door in every town within 50 miles. They hired a private investigator, a former Reykjavik police detective named Guðmundur Sigurðsson. Guðmundur was known for solving cold cases. If anyone could find answers, it was him. He started from scratch, re-interviewed witnesses, studied the timeline, analyzed the weather conditions, reviewed every piece of evidence, and he found something interesting. In Jennifer Park's photo, the last image of Sarah. If you zoomed in, really zoomed in, you could see something in the background. Behind Sarah, further up the beach, a figure. It was blurry, distant, could have been another tourist, could have been a local, could have been nothing. But Guðmundur ran the image through enhancement software. The figure was wearing dark clothing, a hood or a hat, and they appeared to be watching Sarah. Guðmundur showed the enhanced image to the 11 tourists. Did anyone remember seeing this person? Nobody did. He showed it to John. The tour guide studied it carefully. There weren't any other tour groups at the beach that day, he said, just us. So who was it? Guðmundur tried to track down this mystery person. He showed the photo around Vik and nearby towns. No one recognized them. Dead end. April passed, then May. Then June, the Mitchells had to return to the United States. They couldn't stay in Iceland forever. But they left Guðmundur with an open contract. Keep searching. By July, even Guðmundur was running out of leads. He had interviewed over 200 people. He had spent countless hours analyzing every detail. "I'm sorry," he told the Mitchells over the phone. "I have never had a case go cold like this. It is like she vanished into thin air." August came and went, then September. The Icelandic media stopped covering the story. People moved on. Life continued. But on November 19th, 2019, exactly 8 months and 4 days after Sarah Mitchell disappeared, a local sheep farmer named Eiríkur Johnson was checking his fences in the highlands north of Reynisfjara. And he found something that would crack this case wide open, something that would raise more questions than it answered. Eiríkur Johnson had been a sheep farmer for 43 years. He knew the highlands around Reynisfjara better than anyone. Every rock formation, every hidden valley, every cave system. November in Iceland is harsh. The days are short. The wind is brutal. Most tourists have gone home. It is just the locals and the sheep. Eiríkur was doing his monthly fence check about 6 miles inland from Reynisfjara. His property bordered a particularly rugged section of volcanic terrain. Lots of lava tubes, small caves, places where sheep sometimes got stuck. At approximately 2:00 p.m., he was walking along a ridge when he noticed something unusual. One of his sheep was standing near a small cave entrance, acting strange, bleeding repeatedly, pawing at the ground. "I thought maybe one of her lambs had gotten into the cave," Eiríkur later told police, "so I went to check." The cave entrance was small, maybe 3 feet wide. You would have to crouch to get inside. Eiríkur grabbed his flashlight and ducked in. The cave opened up immediately. Inside, it was about the size of a small bedroom. The floor was uneven volcanic rock. The walls were smooth from centuries of erosion. And in the back corner, Eiríkur's flashlight beam landed on something that made his blood run cold. A backpack, a North Face backpack, red and black, partially buried under volcanic dust and debris. "At first, I thought maybe it was just trash," Eiríkur said. "People sometimes dump things illegally out here, but something made me look closer." He walked over to the backpack, brushed away the dust, and saw a name tag, Sarah Mitchell. Portland, Oregon. Eiríkur immediately backed out of the cave. His hands were shaking. He called the police. Within 30 minutes, the same team that had searched for Sarah 8 months earlier was back at the scene. Chief Inspector Kristján Björnsson led the response team. He brought forensic specialists, a crime scene photographer, and a medical examiner, just in case. They entered the cave at 3:45 p.m. Sarah's backpack was right where Eiríkur had found it, partially buried but otherwise intact. The forensic team photographed everything before touching anything. Then they carefully opened the backpack. Inside, they found Sarah's wallet with all her credit cards and ID. $340 in cash, her passport, a journal, a water bottle still half full, an extra camera lens, a protein bar unopened. Everything was there, everything except her phone and her camera. But here is what made the scene even stranger. There was no body. The forensic team searched every inch of that cave. They used luminol to check for blood. Nothing. They searched for signs of struggle. Nothing. They looked for any indication that Sarah had been there. Nothing. Just the backpack. It was like someone had placed it there, Kristján later said in an interview, deliberately, almost theatrically. But the journal changed everything. Sarah's journal contained daily entries from her trip. The handwriting was neat, organized. She wrote about her flights, her first impressions of Reykjavik, the waterfalls she had visited. The final entry was dated March 15th, 2019, the day she disappeared. Written that morning at the cafe in Vik, it read, "Can't wait to see Reynisfjara today. The Black Sand Beach has been on my bucket list for years. John said the basalt columns are incredible. Weather is perfect. This is going to be the best part of the trip." That was it. Nothing unusual. Nothing that suggested she knew what was about to happen. But then the forensic team noticed something. There were pages torn out, near the back of the journal. Clean tears like someone had carefully removed them. 3 pages. Missing. What had been on those pages? What had Sarah written that someone, maybe Sarah herself, had needed to remove? The investigation intensified immediately. Kristján called the Mitchells. "We have found Sarah's belongings," he said, "but not Sarah." You can imagine their reaction. Hope, confusion, terror, all of the above. Guðmundur, the private investigator, was brought back onto the case immediately. He drove to the cave site that same evening. "This changes everything," he told the police. Sarah didn't fall into the ocean. She made it at least 6 miles inland. The question is, how and why? The forensic team analyzed the backpack for DNA evidence. They found Sarah's DNA, of course. But they also found trace amounts of another person's DNA on the outside of the backpack. The handles. Someone else had touched it. But the DNA didn't match anyone in Iceland's database. And it didn't match any of the 11 tourists from the tour. Dead end? Not quite. The police ran the DNA through international databases. Interpol, FBI, Europol, and they got a hit. The DNA matched a 42-year-old Swedish national named Lars Eriksson, but here is the thing. Lars Eriksson had been dead for 6 years. He had died in a car accident in Stockholm in 2013. So how was his DNA on Sarah's backpack in 2019? Contamination? A mistake in the database? Something more sinister? The forensic team retested. Same result. Lars Eriksson's DNA. They pulled Lars's case file. Looked for any connection to Iceland, to Sarah, to anything. Lars had visited Iceland once. In 2011, 8 years before Sarah's disappearance. He had been a tourist just like Sarah. And according to his travel records, he had visited Reynisfjara Black Sand Beach. The coincidence was too strange to ignore. Gudmundur flew to Stockholm. He interviewed Lars's family, his widow, his brother. Did Lars mention anything unusual about his trip to Iceland? Gudmundur asked. Lars's widow, Ingrid, thought for a moment. Then she went to a closet and pulled out a box. Lars's travel stuff, photos, souvenirs, and a journal. Gudmundur's hands shook as he opened it. He flipped to the Iceland section. Lars had written about Reynisfjara, about the black sand, the basalt columns, the power of the ocean. And then in the final entry from that trip he wrote, saw something strange at the beach today, near the basalt columns, a figure, watching. Couldn't tell if it was a person or just shadows, but it felt wrong, like I wasn't supposed to be there, like I was being warned. Gudmundur photographed the entry. He thanked Ingrid and flew back to Iceland immediately, 2 tourists. 8 years apart, both visited Reynisfjara, both saw something strange. One died shortly after in an accident, the other vanished completely. What was happening at that beach? By December 2019, the Sarah Mitchell case had taken a turn from missing person to something much darker, much stranger. The Icelandic police were now working with Interpol. The FBI sent an agent to Reykjavik to assist. This wasn't just about one missing tourist anymore. Gudmundur became obsessed. He started researching the history of Reynisfjara, and what he found disturbed him. Reynisfjara has always had a dark reputation among locals. The beach itself is named after the legend of Reynir, a Viking settler who supposedly vanished there in the year 891 AD. He had gone to the beach to collect driftwood and never returned. But it goes deeper than that. Gudmundur found records of disappearances at or near Reynisfjara dating back centuries. Most were explained away as drownings. The sneaker waves, the dangerous currents, but not all of them. In 1923, a British geologist named Edmund Hartley vanished while studying the basalt columns. His equipment was found, but not his body. In 1967, a Danish photographer named Søren Mahler disappeared. His camera was found near the same cave system where Sarah's backpack was discovered, but no body. In 1989, an American student named Rachel Winters vanished. She had been part of a study abroad program. Her journal was found weeks later, buried in the sand near the water's edge. The final entry read, "Someone is watching me." Gudmundur compiled all of this information. 14 disappearances over 130 years, all at or near Reynisfjara, all with similar characteristics. Belongings found but no bodies. Strange figures reported. A sense of being watched. He presented his findings to the police. Their reaction was skeptical, to say the least. "Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?" Chief Inspector Chris John asked. "I'm not suggesting anything," Gudmundur replied. "I am just showing you the pattern, but patterns demand explanations, and there were only a few possibilities. Theory 1, serial killer. Was someone targeting tourists at Reynisfjara? Someone who operated over decades? It seemed impossible. The timescale was too long. The methods would have had to evolve, and serial killers typically stick to a smaller geographic area, but Gudmundur couldn't rule it out entirely. Theory 2, natural phenomenon. Was there something about the geology of Reynisfjara that caused people to become disoriented? Volcanic gases, perhaps. Magnetic anomalies that affected human cognition. The University of Iceland sent a team of geologists to investigate. They found nothing unusual. No gas emissions. No magnetic irregularities, just normal volcanic rock. Theory 3. Human trafficking. Was Sarah abducted? Were the other victims abducted? Iceland has virtually no human trafficking. It is one of the safest countries on Earth, but it wasn't impossible. Interpol investigated this angle thoroughly. They found no evidence of trafficking rings operating in Iceland, no similar cases in surrounding countries. Theory 4. Well, this is where things get uncomfortable, where science ends and speculation begins. Some locals believed, and had believed for centuries, that Reynisfjara was cursed, that the land itself took people, that the basalt columns weren't just geological formations, but gateways to somewhere else. Folklore, superstition, the kind of thing rational people dismiss, but Guðmundur was running out of rational explanations. He decided to do something controversial. He went to the beach himself. At the same time of day Sarah had disappeared, 2:00 p.m., he stood exactly where Jennifer Park's photo had captured Sarah, near the basalt columns. Camera in hand, and he waited. For 20 minutes nothing happened. Just the sound of waves, the occasional tourist passing by. Then he felt it, a presence, like someone was watching him, not from the beach, from somewhere else, somewhere he couldn't quite pinpoint. He turned around, nobody there. He looked toward the lava fields inland. Nobody, but the feeling persisted, grew stronger, and then he saw something, just for a moment, a figure in the distance, near one of the rock formations, wearing dark clothing, a hood. Exactly like the figure in Jennifer Park's photograph. Guðmundur's instincts kicked in. He started walking toward the figure, then jogging, then running, but the figure didn't move, didn't react, just stood there. As Guðmundur got closer, maybe 50 feet away, the figure turned and walked behind the rocks. Guðmundur reached the rocks 15 seconds later. Nobody there, he searched, looked behind every boulder, every outcropping, nothing. No footprints, no sign anyone had been there. Guðmundur is a rational man, a former police detective, not prone to flights of fancy, but in that moment he understood something. Sarah Mitchell hadn't just disappeared, she had been taken. The question was, by whom or by what? It's been over 5 years since Sarah Mitchell vanished on that black sand beach in Iceland. Her case remains officially unsolved. The Mitchells still travel to Iceland once a year. They walk the beach. They place flowers near the basalt columns. They refuse to give up hope that someday, somehow, they will get answers. The cave where Sarah's backpack was found has been sealed off. The Icelandic government cited safety concerns, but locals know the real reason. They don't want anyone else going in there. Guðmundur continued investigating for another 2 years before retiring. He never solved the case, but he never stopped believing there was an answer. Just not one we are ready to accept. In March 2024, another tourist reported seeing a strange figure at Reynisfjara, near the basalt columns, wearing dark clothing. The police investigated but found nothing. The beach remains open. Tourists still visit by the thousands. Most have no idea about the disappearances, about the pattern, about the warnings. If you ever find yourself at Reynisfjara Black Sand Beach, please remember a few things. Don't turn your back on the ocean. Don't get too close to the water. Stay within the designated areas, and if you see someone watching you from the rocks, someone who doesn't quite belong, don't investigate, don't approach, just leave. Sarah Mitchell's case remains open. If you have any information, contact the Icelandic National Police or the FBI. Her family deserves closure. Sarah deserves to be found. Thank you for watching. If this story affected you, please leave a comment below. Have you ever experienced something unexplainable while traveling? Have you been to Reynisfjara? Subscribe for more true mystery cases every week. Hit that like button, share this video, and remember, some places hold secrets we will never understand. Stay safe out there.